Welcome to another edition of ASUN Game Day. We are here on site at the ASUN headquarters. Last week, we're going to be at Central Arkansas, Kennesaw State game, but with some new news revealed from Kennesaw State. We had to adjust on the fly, but we're here back in the office and ready to bring the newest news and the newest scores up to date here in the ASUN. Jordan Griffitt, William Hall, Mike DeVader. Guys, we have a huge week to talk about and a huge week ahead of us. Last week, there were some lopsided scores. I think we kind of saw some separation here in the ASUN. Some legitimate teams really stood out. So I will go ahead and introduce some of those scores, and we'll talk about them and our biggest takeaways from last week. Central Arkansas, Kennesaw State, the game we were just mentioning, 51-24. The Bears trounce the Owls, something I don't think a whole lot of people expected coming into that game. Then another big-time score, Austin Peay 52, Murray State 17. And we've seen Jacksonville State go in and beat up the Racers as well. So the ASUN has not been kind to Murray State so far this year. Jacksonville State with a 47-31 win over to North Alabama, although that game was a lot closer than I think the final score will indicate. And the lone loss that we have in the ASUN, Sam Houston State beat EKU 25-17. But that's a Sam Houston State team that was national title winner 2 years ago. Number one overall team in the tournament just last season. But guys, with all those scores, all the information I just gave you, what was your biggest takeaway? We'll start with Mike.
Well, unfortunately, I think the Central Arkansas game kind of puts Kennesaw State in deep trouble here on the season. UCA, they continue to rise, they continue to impress, and they really put it to Kennesaw State on both sides of the ball and really attack that defensive secondary of the Owls, and I think Kennesaw State is in trouble looking at the rest of the season. Austin Peay continues to be explosive. Eastern Kentucky obviously lost a tough one, but they were right there in the game. They led late in the fourth quarter in that game as well. So they were right there with one of the best teams in the country, as you said. And Jacksonville State continues to take care of business, and they grabbed their third straight win, so that's impressive as they continue to roll. And North Alabama's Shanderick Powell, what do you know? He continues to get it done, over 100 yards again, 52-yard touchdown run. And we got some explosive teams, explosive players, and it's another impressive week on the gridiron.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was Austin Peay, that offense. They had a bye week before we were on our last show, and so kind of hadn't mentioned them a lot like we were early in the season, but I think that 500 yards of offense they put up is that's what they do. They've been consistent with that. 200 yards on the ground. They had two receivers that go over 100 yards. So I think, to me, just was that constant reminder that, other teams may be grabbing the attention at the moment as far as from the ASUN and who's hot at the moment. But Austin Peay is consistent, and that offense is here to stay. I mean, we're here, halfway through the season, and they're still putting up numbers. So that wasn't just a non-conference early season thing. That's what they do, and they're still at it.
I absolutely agree, and to keep it on Austin Peay right now, a team that got knocked out of the rankings completely after their loss to Central Arkansas, unfairly in my mind. They're working their way back. This is undoubtedly a top 25 team in the nation, as high as number 24 right now. But to your point, William, look at what they did on offense. 570 yards of total offense, just like you were talking about. And look at how they performed on third downs and the amount that they had to overcome with penalties. 3 for 13 on first downs, Austin Peay was. Also had to overcome, looking for the number again, over 100 yards in total penalties in this game. 11 for 105. So you have those yards, 570 yards again, with only going 3 for 13 on third down and overcoming 105 total yards in penalties. I mean, that's a they could have had 700 yards. I mean, I honestly don't think that's too crazy to say. If they're, closer to that 40% mark on third downs like they usually are, if they don't have those penalties, oh my goodness. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I know that this isn't true, but you do get extra yards when you get those penalties. So it's like, I get another 20 yards on my completion, but I know that's not what they're doing. So they do have to overcome those penalties. They've done that so far. Want to try to clean that up as we get towards the end of the year. But the thing I think I want to look at with Austin Peay, they were able to bounce back in a big way, but they're a young team. They haven't really been here before, especially being here in the ASUN. What can they do in those big moments when the season truly is on the line. Are they going to be able to break away from those penalties and those bad habits, or will the moment be too big for them? And that's really something that's exciting to look at down the line for the Govs because they're right there.
Yep. And, I mean, obviously impressive, but I think we would be wrong if we didn't talk about Kennesaw State and what Central Arkansas did to them in that game. I think that was the one overall. I mean, the Austin Peay, that was impressive, obviously, but I think UCA going into their stadium and putting it on the way they did, that was huge.
Undoubtedly the most impressive victory from last week, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I think the most impressive victory of any team this season. 51 points in Kennesaw, Georgia at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. During the middle of that game, I looked over at a former Kennesaw State offensive lineman, and I said, when's the last time Kennesaw State's been whooped like this? I mean, you have to go back 5 years since the program was pretty much started. I mean, that says so much about Coach Nathan Brown and what this offense for Central Arkansas was able to do. Will McIlvain, 22 for 30, 292, 2 touchdowns with an interception that wasn't necessarily his fault. One interception, Markeith Montgomery just made one heck of a football play on that one. Went up the right sideline and kind of snatched that one out of the air. Nothing you could really do about that. Then you look at the rushing. Darius Hale had the quietest 23 carries, 172-yard, 2-touchdown game you've ever seen in your life because they were so rampant through the air. Christian Richmond, 12 receptions for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you're seeing a plethora of wide receivers here in the ASUN. That was one of my takeaways. But my first takeaway is UCA. This tempo on offense, guys, they go fast, and when they're in a rhythm, they might be the best offense in the ASUN. I know we keep saying that every week. Who's the best offense? EKU shows it. Austin Peay shows it. But Central Arkansas last week, I mean, it might be a crown that keeps passed around every single week. Right now, Central Arkansas, that crown's all you. 51 points. Again, that tempo is just relentless.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with confidence because once you get into that offensive flow, I mean, as an offensive player, when you're even breaking records, you had 12 catches, that's a new ASUN record. When you see yourself doing something, you really believe that you're not going to be stopped. So I think that's what's going on right now with UCA is their momentum they have on offense. That'll trickle down to the defense too because they're seeing their offensive teammates getting it done on the offensive end, scoring points. That makes you even better as a defensive player. When you can take risks, you can fly around, hit anybody you want, get to the football because you know your offense is playing good. Man, that's a good rhythm to be in for UCA.
I mean, I'm sold.
Yeah. And you also look at the other side of the ball for UCA. Maybe the most underrated part in the ASUN is their defense. Cameron Godfrey, ASUN preseason selection, had an interception, 40-yard return last week. Tamarian Wilson, in my opinion, the ASUN Defensive Player of the Year through the first half of the season so far. Then Logan Jessup, maybe the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Season, leading the ASUN in sacks. Their defensive line is stacked. They're loaded up there. This defense, when they're playing their best ball, because we did see that game against Lindenwood, they dropped 52 to a very high-powered offense in Lindenwood, a 52-49 defeat. But all that's rendered now, you come back, that's wiped away. You beat a team like Kennesaw State, a conference opponent like this. Your defense came up and balled out. I mean, they could not have done any more to the Kennesaw State offense. I'm wowed by this UCA team. And last week, again, I think maybe the most impressive win in the ASUN so far this year.
I mean, and I think we all kind of didn't expect this, but
not the score at least.
And I think they're proving that somebody knew something, and it was the coaches, so they're the ones that voted. But, you know, they came preseason. They were, tied for second in the preseason poll,
yes.
Central Arkansas. Yep. So we may be shocked or a little, but like you said, it's that they're proving that there were some people that knew that UCA was going to be solid this year, and they're out there proving it. So right now, they're in a prime position to take home this ASUN championship this year because 2-0 in league play at the top of the standings. So,
and I think if Hale continues to roll, that's the straw that stirs the drink for them because if they're able to run the ball whenever they want it, he's doing his thing, they're going to continue to do what they do. So you're seeing that right now, and we'll see if it continues in the coming weeks.
And again, there's so many more guys you can highlight. Kylan James, their backup running back, 50-yard touchdown throw in that game. his third career touchdown throw. It was kind of like a draw handoff out to the right. He hits a guy deep, and, I mean, no one saw that coming, even though he did have some touchdown throws on his record, and he's their backup running back, and that's a guy that can do just about as much as Darius Hale is going to get the opportunities because he gets a lot of snaps as well. Then Gerard Barnes had 100 yards, a touchdown against Kennesaw State, and then their ex-receiver, their biggest receiver, 6'2", Miles Butler, 2 for 36. That's another guy that you can tack on. Guys, my other takeaway after watching UCA and watching UNA, EKU, all of these ASUN teams, Austin Peay in there as well, the ASUN has some of the best receivers in college football. Takari Kennebrew, Cortez Hall, he's been around for a while. Dre McCray leading the ASUN in receptions and touchdowns. Dak Allen, Christian Richmond, we saw what he did last week. ASUN leader in in single game receptions now, broke that record against Kennesaw State. And then Gerard Barnes, a guy who's taken a punt return to the house. Christian Richmond, also a guy who's taken a kick return to the house. There's so much explosive talent from the perimeter. Pound for pound, I'm not sure if there's a better conference in the nation in terms of wide receiver talent than the ASUN right now.
I mean, that's true. But on the other side, I think to go with that, it's the quarterbacks. We've got some excellent quarterback play. I mean, we've got passing touchdowns, top 16 in the nation. Mike DeVader, Austin Peay, Parker McKinney, Eastern Kentucky, and Will McElvain, Central Arkansas. They're at respectively 6'9" and 16 in passing touchdowns in FCS football. So the receivers they're catching the balls and they're doing what they got to do. But you've got some good guys that are back there behind the center throwing it up. So I think we've been the offense has been something that we've been kind of keyed in on this whole season. That we've got people that are putting up amazing numbers. So it's no surprise that on the other side we got excellent receivers as well. So that offense we're lighting it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become obvious when we're going into mid-November, you're getting to the last weeks of this football season. It's going to come down to who can get that one stop. It's going to be UCA, EKU, Austin Peay. Those seem to be the three as of right now. Of course, there's a lot of season left to play. Anything could happen, but with how the results have shooken out, it seems to be which one of those three teams is going to get a stop there at the end of the season that's really going to define if you're going to walk away with an AQ spot.
And based on what you're saying, talking about quarterback play, talking about wide receiver play, if I'm a defensive back in this league right now, I'm taking a look in the mirror, taking this as a personal challenge because you didn't say nothing about defense right there.
Yeah.
So all you're talking about is the offensive power that we have in this league. And if I'm a defender, that's straight up disrespect to me. And rightfully so. If this is what's going on the offensive end, some of those defensive backs deserve that. But you really need to start to make a change if you don't want the offense to continue to roll like they are. So look yourself in the mirror, prepare a little better, find out what's going on film, try to fix these issues to try to make that play that changes the game or the course of the ASUN championship, because right now those defensive backs have made some good plays, but they're getting run over a little bit on what they're trying to do defensively, because these receivers, these quarterbacks, they're putting up such good numbers that they're not really respecting these cornerbacks, and they're begging them to try to do something about it.
Well, I mean, you look at the complete package of all of these offenses around the ASUN, because if you're a corner, it's not like you can only cover. You still got to tackle because you still have to worry about Kylan James and Darius Hale. Austin Peay, C.J. Evans as well. They still can run the ball. Mike DeLillo is a threat on the ground as well. EKU can run the ball. Kennesaw State obviously runs the ball with the best of them. So you have to key in on the run as well as having to cover these guys. But listen, if I'm a cornerback and I'm lined up against Takari Kennebrew, Dre McCray, any of these guys, I got to take some Tylenol PM the night before because I'm going to be staying up if I'm not. I mean, those guys are legit, and they are – good defense doesn't begin to cover them. They are that good.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's exciting to watch.
Well, talking about that AQ, we have our power rankings here, and now we have not been able to explain this here on the podcast. Came out 2 weeks ago. The ASUN WAC Alliance, the power rankings come out, and the equation is broken up in such a way that you end up with a certain percentage. And at the end of the day, that percentage is going to be able to determine who's going to walk away with the AQ between these two conferences. So at number 1 right now, as it stands going into Week 8, we're now after Week 7. Stephen F. Austin with a pretty pretty nice lead right now at number 1, 89%. Then Abilene Christian at number 2, 72%. And then Austin P, the first ASUN team, at 71, followed by Tarleton, who is ineligible because they are transitioning up. They're at number 4, 68%. EKU narrowly behind at 67. Central Arkansas at 52. Southern Utah at 50 at number 7. Kennesaw State at 8, 49%. Utah Tech also ineligible, transitioning up. They are at 16. And then North Alabama at number 10 with 13. So a wide array of percentages right there. Again, Stephen F. Austin leading the way as of right now. But you don't see Jacksonville State on there. You also don't see Sam Houston State because they are transitioning up to FBS from FCS. So they are ineligible for postseason play, so they are not going to be on this list. Unlike Utah Tech and Tarleton, who are transitioning up from D2. A little bit of a different transition there. So that's why they are on this list and the other two are not. So my biggest takeaway from this, Austin P, EKU, Central Arkansas, those are the 3 teams that are really in the mix right now. Austin P with a good lead over the rest of the ASUN, 4%. We'll see how much that really matters there in the end. Central Arkansas with 52% right now. Again, I don't know if this means a whole lot at the moment because there's still plenty of season left to play. But Central Arkansas and Austin P, I'm very much looking forward to that matchup later in the season.
Yeah, and I think what these standings say to our teams is you just got to keep doing what you do, keep winning, because we're going to try to finish the season off the best we can. Of course, they're trying to win the ASUN championship, but as far as these standings and rankings are concerned, just focus on week at a time, one game at a time. Obviously, we have some good matchups, but obviously we want to win these standings too and have our team be number 1. So the ASUN teams, 1 week at a time, win each game, do the best you can, and we'll see what happens. But these rankings are pretty cool to see, and I'm excited to see how it plays out.
I want to correct myself. I'm pretty sure I just said Central Arkansas. I meant EKU and Austin P. They're at 3 and 5 right now. Central Arkansas and Austin P already played. Central Arkansas with a big win right there. So, again, really, I don't know how much is going to mean week to week, but the percentage as it lies right now, 70% of it is going to be your record. 15% is going to be your opponent's record, and the other 15% is going to be your opponent's record. So you can call it RPI if that's how you want to look at it. That's not how it's split up right now. It's opponent's record, then opponent's record. So out of the ASUN, the non-conference, you want to play the toughest opponents possible because it can only benefit you right now. Because FBS losses don't do anything to your record or your percentage on here. But if you're able to get an FBS win, it can count to your record. It doesn't count against you, but it can count to you. So an FBS win like Bowling Green for EKU counts toward their record, but a loss to Sam Houston State like them, who's transitioning up to FBS, doesn't count against them. There's a lot to it.
And you've explained it well.
Well, I appreciate it.
It sounds like a modern-day BCS system. This is great.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Again, there's a lot of moving parts, and we'll see what the percentage is week to week. But Austin P leading the way for the ASUN WAC power rankings, but UCA leading the ASUN standings, being undefeated in conference play and getting huge wins over Austin P and Kennesaw State.
Does this have the potential to be controversial?
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask. I'm just,
No, it certainly does because
if I look at this, I see Austin P at 3, I see Eastern Kentucky at 5, Central Arkansas at 6. If I look at our ASUN standings, I know Central Arkansas is number 1. So
yep.
I'm just, I'm just watching.
That's the fact of the matter right now. Central Arkansas leading the ASUN standings 2-0 in the ASUN, beating Austin P in Kennesaw State, but they're at number 6 in the ASUN WAC Alliance power rankings. Interesting to say the least. But the top of this ranking is going to shake up at least a little bit because Stephen F. Austin still has to play Abilene Christian, and those are two very quality opponents. So we'll see exactly how that shakes out. But again, it's a week-to-week basis. Interesting look right now, but Austin P leads the way for the ASUN. All right, moving on to our players of the week. William, who do we got?
Yep, we've got starting off, I think Mike alluded to it earlier, 12 receptions, setting an ASUN record. Christian Richmond, Central Arkansas, got his first career ASUN Offensive Player of the Week. It's the 8th selection for Central Arkansas. Finished with 156 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in that explosive win that Central Arkansas had over Kennesaw State. Antoine Williams, Austin Peay is our defensive player of the week. He's got his first win for himself and for Austin Peay as a program. He led the team in defense with 10 tackles, including 4 solo stops and a sack. Alan Karagic, again, claimed his 5th ASUN Special Teams Player of the Week honor this week. He set a JSU scoring record for kickers with 17 points in the victory. So I know you mentioned we would hear his name again.
Yeah.
And here he is.
I'm pretty sure he's still perfect on the year. I don't think he's missed a PAT or an extra point. He has been perfect all year. Mr. Flawless, Alan Karagic.
He is perfect on his PAT, so you got that right. So he's here again, and we probably will see him again.
Yes.
You gonna. Is that a bold prediction? Is that bold enough for you?
It's not bold enough for me because mine are usually wrong.
Yeah, got you. I'm with you.
So if it's right, it's probably not bold enough.
And our freshman of the week this week was Cam Thomas, Austin Peay. His second freshman of the week honor, returned the kickoff for 94 yards for a touchdown. That's the first for Austin Peay since 2017. So it was impressive week all around for ASUN, and those were our football players of the week.
I think my biggest the thing that impressed me the most, I'll say, from that list is Cam Thomas again. He's been on that list, or not been on that list, but has also returned one before this year. I believe he had a punt return just a couple weeks ago, if I'm correct. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that he returned one back already, a punt return for Austin Peay. Also, this is a guy that's been on ASUN Plays of the Week, almost seems like every single week for Austin Peay. Whether he's returning it all the way or not, he's getting at least 40 yards here and there.
He's taking off.
Yeah.
He's taking off people.
It's ridiculous. Punt returners, kick returners, you don't usually say their name. His name is getting said almost every week. I mean, Devin Hester of the ASUN?
That's where you going?
No.
Hey.
Well,
Don't
Devin
back off.
Hester.
No. You got to.
Devin Hester-ish.
Ish.
Yeah.
Ish,
Well, I mean,
that changes everything.
Devin Hester. I mean, come on. That's Devin Hester, right? But he is
Cam Thomas.
He's developing a reputation as a freshman, no less. He's developing this reputation.
He's got it.
You cannot kick it to him.
Yeah, you don't want to
kick it to him. You do not want to kick it to him, and that is his Devin Hester reputation.
Yeah.
Do not kick it to Cam Thomas right now.
The X factor of the ASUN.
Dante Hall, the X factor. Yes, the X factor of the ASUN. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That's a guy that's, as a freshman, has come in and absolutely lit the world on fire. All right, enough about last week. Let's look at what we have coming up this week. All right, Jacksonville State, they play SCLA. That's Southeastern Louisiana. I will say that once because I always mess that one up. SCLA. Kennesaw State also hosts Tennessee Tech, and our lone ASUN game, North Alabama at Eastern Kentucky. So a couple of good matchups. We get that kind of mid-season bye weeks we're seeing from a couple of teams, Central Arkansas and Austin Peay being that one. So let's see what we have so far this week. SCLA and Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State hosting Tennessee Tech. Who wants to lead this one off?
I'll go ahead and jump in with this the Kennesaw State Tennessee Tech game. I think they're looking to get on track. Very winnable homecoming game. I think that's kind of normal with homecoming games. They're games you feel confident about. So, but you know they're 2-0 in the all-time matchups against Tennessee Tech. First meeting was close, 27-14. Back in 2017, the first time they met. But the first time they met, the last time the teams met was in 2018. 49-10 win for Kennesaw State on the road. On paper, if you're looking at the teams, looking at what they're averaging, this season, it's sort of even. KSU has an edge in rushing. The Golden Eagles have a better passing attack, so I think the Owls need to really focus on tightening up that passing defense. I mean, they gave up 347 yards to Central Arkansas last week, so obviously you want to close those holes in your secondary to make sure you're not giving up those passing yards. But at the same note, that Owls defense has been solid for them this year. They've got 15 turnovers so far on the year. They had 2 interceptions last week against Central Arkansas. They got a fumble recovery, so they're going to need that defense to step up. The offense has been there. I think they've gotten a spark in the last couple of weeks. They've showed that they can move the ball, put some points on the board, so they need to keep that going. I think this is a bounce-back week for Kennesaw State, a chance for them to string together some non-conference wins before they close out the season with those 2 ASUN matchups to end the year. So I think this is a chance to kind of find out what's been going wrong. You're at home. Just get things going in the right direction to try to close out this season strong to improve your standings overall and then in the power rankings and also, in the ASUN standings overall.
This is going to be a classic strength versus weakness for Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech has one of the worst rushing defenses, allows nearly 200 yards per game. Kennesaw State 13th in the nation, getting 208 yards per game. And Kennesaw State, after last week's game, this is almost uncharted waters for them. They've never had a conference loss, no less a loss like that within the last few years, especially at Fifth Third Bank. They get another week to sleep in their own beds against a Tennessee Tech team, guys, that has struggled. 0 for 3 in the OVC, 1 of 5 so far on the year. They're going to have to get a 250-yard rushing game against Tennessee Tech. It's been no secret the Kennesaw State secondary has struggled this year. I think the coaches would tell you, 119th, you're giving up, like you said, 306 per game. That's almost dead last. You're 4 spots away from being dead last in the nation in that category. This is the game where they can try and turn that around, get some confidence in that secondary, get some confidence in the defense. I think you said it there too, William. The defense has actually been good if you're watching it, but then they have those explosive plays that just, 70 yards all of a sudden, puts a lopsided score on the stat sheet, looks like you've been gashed. And that's really been the case for Kennesaw State. You get 3 to 4 consecutive 3-and-outs. Bam, 75-yard or two-play drive for the other team. And then that pretty much knocks out all of the good that you just did in those last 3 or 4 because you give up those big chunk plays. And again, on the stat sheet, it doesn't look very good. This is a game where they can shut down Tennessee Tech and the Golden Eagles. They have to do it. This is a defense that has to step up in the secondary. Get some takeaways. They've gotten some takeaways. That's not been the problem. As you mentioned as well, they have plenty of turnovers so far this year. 7 interceptions from Kennesaw State, only 1 for Tennessee Tech. So get some takeaways. You got to consistently get those 3-and-outs. You can't let those gash plays. You can't let anything go over your head in this game. Otherwise, that's not going to spell good news for Kennesaw State. This is a get-right game for them on defense. Let's hope that they can hold the Tennessee Tech offense and not put the ball in the air too much. All right, Mike, what do you got for us?
Okay, so this week I'm looking at Jacksonville State versus Southeastern Louisiana. We spoke a little bit about it earlier, but the Gamecocks are 6-1, 3 straight W's for them, 3-3, 1-1 in the Southland for Southeast Louisiana, and they've won 3 out of the last 4. Has Southeastern Louisiana, including a 70-6 victory over Central Connecticut State, which is impressive, and 41-35, the most impressive on the schedule, over number 7 Incarnate Word when they scored on a last-second touchdown on a 59-yard touchdown pass as time expired. So that's really impressive for the Lions there. The Lions are number 22 in offense, 33.8 points per game, 32nd total yards, just about 410 yards. Defensively, however, this is where Jacksonville State could take advantage. Although it's through the air, the Lions give up 268 yards per game through the air, which is 100th in the country, and they're 91st overall in total defense at 426.7 yards per contest. So looking into this matchup, I think Jacksonville State continues to roll on offense. Obviously, they come in with a powerful offense in the top 20, ranked 18th in the country at 436.7 yards per game, with 256 coming on the ground, which is 4th in the nation. So looking at these two teams, looks like a good game for Jacksonville State to earn that 7th victory on the season. But will they alter their attack at all, knowing that they should be able to run at any point in time, but the pass defense could be something that you could see for Jacksonville State to take advantage of, because that's not really what they want to do or need to do most of the time. But when you have an opportunity to do this, let's see what they do in their game plan. Do they alter it? I kind of doubt it, but they could take advantage of some opportunities through the air as well. And obviously rushing is what they're known for, and they could take advantage there as well, because 70th in the country in rushing defense for Southeastern Louisiana, 158.3 yards a game. So they have options on both sides of offense with passing and running. But, man, that passing sure looks good at number 100 in the country.
Yeah, SCLA has developed this reputation. We were just mentioning reputation earlier, being this up-and-down team. They're going to allow just as many points as they're going to score as well. And that's usually okay. But with a team like Jacksonville State, averaging 37.4 points scored per game, that's going to be a problem because Jacksonville State can do two things. They can score the ball with the best of them, but they can also slow the game down with their running game because they can run it so efficiently. They can shorten possessions and make sure that your offense doesn't see the field as often as they're used to. 37.4 points per game, tied with Austin Peay for the lead in the ASUN. This looks to be a favorable matchup for Jacksonville State in every single category. You mentioned a lot of those, Mike, and I think you don't want to get into an up-and-down game with Jacksonville State. I think that they're going to be the superior team in terms of that, if that's what this game really turns out to be, or it could be one of those where, the strengths cancel out, and this is going to be a defensive matchup because it's kind of a low-scoring game. That seems to happen for some reason in the game of football. You have these strengths, you think it's going to be up and down, it's going to be a defensive battle, or vice versa, you think it's going to be defensive, ends up being a barn burner there. But Jacksonville State, fourth highest rushing offense in the nation. They can run the ball with the best of them. Their offensive line is nasty. They are creating holes for Zion Webb and their entire running back core. You can name about 4 or 5 different ones that I think can run the ball with the best of them in the ASUN as well. So Jacksonville State, in my opinion, in a favorable matchup against Southeast Louisiana. But then you look at SELA so far this year, and you mentioned a lot of good points there, Mike. UIW, one of the best teams in the nation. They were incredible in the postseason last year. 41-35, a Hail Mary win at the time expiring on that one. Murray State, a team that seems to be getting beat up by a lot of teams playing in the ASUN and ASUN teams, 48-14. And then they had a loss last week to Texas A&M Commerce, 31-28. That's a team that's 4-2 in the Southland right now, And one of their losses this year came to Tennessee Tech, the other team playing an ASUN team this week, which is kind of strange. That was back on September 10th, a 26-25 victory for Tennessee Tech. Their lone win of the season was against Texas A&M Commerce, a team that beat Southeast Louisiana, who's now playing Jacksonville State. So there's some football math to be done there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they also beat a top 5 team. So
you're putting it together.
Right.
Tennessee Tech, top 5.
There you go. Exactly. That's just how this stuff works. So an interesting matchup, Southeast Louisiana. I'm not exactly sure how good they're going to be in this game. So I'm excited to see Jacksonville State versus them so far this week. We got one more to talk about here on the other side of the break. It's the ASUN Game of the Week. North Alabama at Eastern Kentucky. Welcome back to the ASUN Gameday Podcast. Jordan Griffitt, William Hall, Mike DeVader. It was very rude of me just to go straight to the break and skip our standout stat. I got to hit this first before we talk about our game of the week. I'm sorry I teased it. I messed with two people, the audience and Mike DeVader. I can't afford to make Mike DeVader mad. We got to come back to the standout stat. We don't want Mike mad.
Well, I don't know how I can go into this. I'm flustered now because my plan is all messed up. But the standout stat we're going to look at today, we've kind of touched on already. We're going to dive into special teams again. I know we talked about kickers a couple weeks ago, but this time we're going to go towards team touchdowns on special teams. These kind of plays really do have an opportunity to change games immensely, and most recently they've really come to the forefront of our awards. They've come to the forefront of some of our games, and they can single-handedly change the momentum of some of our outcomes. So the standout stat that we have right now is we have 5 total touchdowns through kickoff return and punt return throughout the league. So the ASUN combines for 5 total touchdowns on special teams, 2 of those on kickoff return, 3 of them on punt return. Kick returns, we have ranging. We haven't had a lot of kickoff returns because they move the ball up, they kick out of bounds, they fair catch inside the 25. Those are tougher to come by, but we have returns of 27 to 100 yards. UCA had a 100-yard touchdown. Austin Peay had a 94-yard touchdown, so those are the 2 touchdowns on kickoff returns. Punt returns, we have 3 scores on punt return. The average punt return, or longest, has ranged from 9 yards, you're fair catching a lot in that case, when your longest is 9 yards of return, or all the way to 92 yards. So our three touchdowns, for punt returns, Jacksonville State, UCA, and Austin Peay. So if you understand or look at those or remember what we just talked about, ironically, UCA and Austin Peay are in both of those categories. So they're putting a real emphasis on trying to change the game, flip the field, and try to score touchdowns and change momentum that way. But the one thing that I circled here, Austin Peay had that 92-yard punt return for a score. But my question is, what are you doing taking that ball on the 8-yard line? I mean, I know you want to make a play, but I've always
made a play.
I know. Thank goodness. You better make a play if you're going to catch it at the 8, because otherwise you're going to be on the bench.
And I believe that was Cam Thomas. I believe that was his first one. And then at the kickoff last week, I believe.
Your X Factor was almost benched.
Because, I mean, I think he realized that he shouldn't have caught it. He's like, I better score.
I hope I'm right. I hope my memory serves me right.
Well, whoever it was, Mike was going to bench him.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
I mean, you got your heels on the 10-yard line. I've grown up my whole life saying, you best not back up. If you do, you let the ball go. Because, I mean, Tyreek Hill even has this problem fumbling the ball at the 5. So you really, really got to understand that if you're on the 10, you make a catch on a punt, you better make a play, because it's a big time no.
Is that the I think a new tradition is at least
that
one
that
Chiefs
was it.
reference
I knew
every week.
We've already done that. You covered it with Dante Hall. That was just
that's our second one.
That
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the second one.
Yeah.
they're like little Easter eggs, man. We just drop them in the podcast.
I just wait for him to come. It's like, okay,
But is Tyreek Hill really
which
a
one of
Chiefs
you is going to take me to Kansas City?
Is Tyreek Hill really a Chiefs reference? So no, I don't know.
You meant it as a Chiefs reference when you said it.
I mean, he said it. Never mind.
You didn't deny it. Yeah, I know.
Let's see how things go.
If
to
Mike
Miami.
has to say,
How things
if
go.
Mike has to say never mind, I can't imagine what he was about to say. So
We'll leave it at that.
to your point, I mean, doing some of the research on UCA going into last week, they had every single game at least one non-offensive touchdown. And I know that also includes pick six and scooping scores, but that also speaks to the special teams' ability. And we saw them go back-to-back with them in Austin Peay, like you mentioned there, Mike. So there's something about there's something in the water for these special teams units and the returners that are bringing stuff back this year. I mean, it's been incredible. You are hard-pressed to find one a year, maybe two if you're really lucky. I mean, these teams seem to be doing it every other week at this point.
I heard Mike talking about kickers a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't want to hear about your kickers.
I
I'm
am
going to
a
return
master motivator right there, baby.
it. Yeah.
I mean, cornerbacks are next. They're going to start intercepting the ball. So
he called them out, so they're the next ones. Like,
it's foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's going to be turnover machines next week.
I'm not
from
going to
the
call
DB.
for 5 fumble recoveries.
yeah, you just reminded me. And I was about to say,
Oh.
we didn't count those fumbles up that you called.
Yeah, that's a couple weeks ago. We better go back and look.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say it didn't happen. I haven't
5
counted it.
interceptions is possible, not fumble recoveries. But
Yeah. All right, moving on to our game of the week. Teased it coming into the break. Had to get to the standout stat first. EKU versus North Alabama. Who would have thought, guys? We're on October 20th recording this. Both these teams at this point are looking for their first conference win. That's pretty wild to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have to consider that there's not as many conference teams as the usual football conference, but that's still wild to me. 0-1 for EKU, 0-2 for North Alabama. But again, they've been in every single conference game. Kennesaw State took them to 2 overtimes last week. I don't think that score was indicative of how close that game was throughout. North Alabama has the tendency to do that. They will stick around. They are a very competitive football team. What do you guys see in this matchup versus EKU?
I mean, just overall in the game, obviously, UNA, their running game, just to see, where they are going to try to attack the Eastern Kentucky defense. But just looking at this game, to me, it's just the interesting thing is, again, like you said, that both these teams are looking for their first ASUN win. And, but it's not in the sense of that they've been struggling. I mean, EKU had one game that they had the Austin Peay had a great comeback. They were in control of that game. Austin Peay had a good comeback and they lost. North Alabama, they were competitive with Jacksonville State. They were in the game. I mean, that pass at the end in that overtime is a little bit overthrown. They win that overtime game against Kennesaw State, so it's not as though there's been a struggle that's led to them needing their first win. So I think it's interesting who gets the win and where does that set them up going forward. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were having the conversation, I think before the Austin Peay Eastern Kentucky game was, are we watching the ASUN champion? Or these are the two best teams? And, it's been 2 or 3 weeks later because of buys and non-conference games and whatnot, but EKU is still in it. And they're still dangerous. So I'm just kind of – that's the game of – obviously it's the game of the week, but I think just the one that I'm waiting to see what the outcome of that's going to be because both these teams are at a point where they need the win, obviously, and I don't think either one is coming into it. Certainly I'm not like I haven't – it's a toss-up to me.
I absolutely agree. And I think at some point, you look at North Alabama, a 1-5 record in the same case as last year. In every single game last year, guys, they led in that game. So and it's a different conference this year. It hasn't quite been the case, but they've led in a lot of the games that they've played. 6 games so far. Again, a 1-5, 0-2 ASUN record. I'm just waiting for that 1 week where it all comes together 1 through 4 in terms of quarters. The fourth quarter is the most important one that we've learned from North Alabama. When's the game? When's the week that they're going to finally put it together? I mean, you could say it's any single week. It could be against EKU this week. It's going to be a tall task against a team that's receiving votes for Eastern Kentucky. It's going to be a battle. But again, at some point, I feel like North Alabama's going to put it together, and they're going to get one of these stunner wins that people aren't going to see coming. This might be one of them.
Well, I think this matchup is a battle of trying to get the other team off balance and out of their comfort zone. You have a little bit of clash in styles with UNA continuing to pound the rock, wanting to run the ball, Powell wanting to take over the game, versus Eastern Kentucky. Can you stop their passing game? Can you force them to try to run? If they try to run, do they get out of rhythm? There's all kinds of things that could happen, but I think it's up to North Alabama to rise to that challenge because I think EKU is able to do what they want when they're in a rhythm. Everybody knows that, but I think if North Alabama can surprise them a little bit, shut down the passing game, try to make them run, North Alabama can probably take control of this game, and I'd really like to see them try to do that because that'll create that positivity that we talk about on the defensive end when you can see your offense dictate the game or defense dictate the game by changing the way a team wants to run their offense. That's really a positive thing, and for the Lions here, I think you want to continue to run the ball, and if you can force EKU to try to run the ball because your defense is playing well, that could really change the tide here, and I think that could put UNA right on that doorstep of that potential first victory and complete game because it's all going to stand with their defense and if they can get pressure on the quarterback because they're going to want to try to run the ball.
Yeah.
So if they can put those two things together, I think it's going to be a close matchup.
I think you're absolutely right, Mike. And it's not necessarily a bold prediction, but this is how the game, I think, will play out. It's going to go one of two ways. Parker McKinney is going to be able to sling the ball all around the yard like we see every single game, 300 yards per game he's on pace for so far this year. We're going to see those numbers, but we're going to see some interceptions. That's the other caveat to this one. Is he going to stay clean, or is he going to have that one interception to a guy like Kyrie Fields, safety, preseason all-conference ASUN selection? He's been outstanding this year, and he's going to get a lot of pressure up front from guy number 55, Micah Bland, also a preseason selection. Watch him against Kennesaw State. The guy is a freak on the defensive line. He is a run stuffer, and he is also a pass rusher at the same time. He can do it all. Plugs up the middle for the UNA defense. Can EKU outscore UNA and really turn it into a track meet? I'm very interested to see UNA. I'm on the UNA bandwagon. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back, baby.
All right.
That's right. I'm back on the UNA bandwagon, but I think EKU, obviously, a high-quality, high-caliber team. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. I can't wait to see how that works out and how that plays out in the ASUN WAC standings. Again, EKU, they've played Austin Peay. They've played Central Arkansas played Austin Peay. Austin Peay's played EKU and Central Arkansas. Starting to see more of these conference teams play and how that affects their ranking. EKU, if they're able to get a win over North Alabama, or if North Alabama is able to beat EKU, I doubt that they're going to stay at number 10. I mean, they're going to shoot up that rankings there pretty quick. So, I mean, that's going to be a big win for them. So I'm very interested to see if Chris Willis and North Alabama can pull it off against a sharp EKU team so far this year.
So you're talking about interceptions, over under 1.5 interceptions for UNA's defense.
Oh, it's a great number. I'm an optimist.
You are.
I'm going over. I'm going 2. I think Kyrie Fields is going to get one. I think they're going to find one in the linebacking core too. I don't know how. I don't know how
Could be
it's
all
gonna
because
happen.
of the defensive line pressure.
Or it could be, and you know what? How about, can I take 2 turnovers? Can I include fumbles as well?
All right, we'll make an amendment. That's fine. Yes.
All right, 2. I'll even go to 2.5 to amend your amendment.
Overruled. No, that's fine. 2.5 turnovers in.
2.5 turnovers, and it's including lost fumbles for EKU. UNA, I think, gets that. And I think that would be the difference maker for UNA. And if they don't get that number, I think it's 3. If they don't get those 3 turnovers, I think it's going to be an EKU-dominated type of game because they can do that. EKU has shown that they can dominate opponents so far this year. I mean, look behind me. They took Sam Houston State, a former national champion, a team that's transitioning up to FBS, to the brink. This team can play with just about anybody. So if North Alabama doesn't get those turnovers, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out for them. EKU might have a pretty outstanding performance if that doesn't happen. All right, moving on to our game within the game. What do you got, Mike?
Well, for me, I think it's I'm going to look at Kennesaw State, Tennessee Tech. Obviously, you think that this is a game that Kennesaw State can really take advantage of here. And we kind of did the who's who of college football victories with our haiku that we kind of put together there. But I'm really challenging Kennesaw State's pass defense because I want to see what Tennessee Tech can do to the Tennessee. They're playing each other. They're playing each other. It's a scrimmage.
The third Chiefs reference.
So I want to see what Kennesaw State can do in the defensive backfield versus Tennessee Tech, because Kennesaw State and what we've talked about with some of the defensive backs and what we've seen from the offenses. I know it's a non-conference matchup, but what can Kennesaw State do to put something on film or in their own minds that they can try to rebound on the defensive end? So what are they going to do in the defensive backfield to change the game? How are they going to cover? Are they going to cover their keys on both running and passing? Because they need some momentum here because Kennesaw State's hurting. But the defensive backfield is what I'm looking at because they were shredded last week. They need to bounce back. So in a game that you should win and a game you should handle, can they do everything that they're supposed to do on the defensive side of the ball in the backfield, try to create some momentum, have a positive outcome here on Saturday against Tennessee Tech?
I think that's a great point there, Mike, and something we talked about earlier as well, the secondary for Kennesaw State. It's kind of weird because if you're watching Kennesaw State, there are 2 guys in the secondary who have had outstanding years. DeAndre Morris and then Markeith Montgomery. Everyone knows what Markeith has been doing, a guy that's incredible in run support and had that incredible interception last week against Will McIlvain. But again, then you have that big chunk play that just right over your head, and it wipes away all the good you were just doing for the past 5-6 possessions. All they need to do, is wipe that away. And then their defense is going to improve so much statistically and so much more confidence is going to be into this DB group because they really haven't played that bad. It's just been, again, those big plays that just take so much energy, so much wind out of your sail. So I think that's a great point, Mike. So, William, game within the game, what do you got?
I'm sticking with Kennesaw State. That's kind of my game within the game, but it's slightly different. It's just overall the mentality they're coming into this game with. I think that, obviously you coming off a loss like that at home, you've kind of struggled somewhat this year. Somewhat, not a huge struggle, but there's been a struggle.
There hasn't, for Kennesaw State, there hasn't been a convincing win so far.
Yeah,
you beat Wofford by a couple points. Double overtime against North Alabama. No shame in that at all. Obviously, North Alabama, quality opponent, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of things in the news about your program, your school, the future. You've got obviously some questions about where you stand. I think a lot of people felt like coming into this season, you were the team to beat in the ASUN. You're number 1. You're going to get it done. Now that's starting to be questioned. So, where do you mentally – and to your point, Mike, the things that you do with your defense and that little stuff, this overall, you're not out of it,
No.
You pull it together. You've got some I think 3 non-conference games up, and then you close out with 2 conference contests. So, you have – the season isn't over. But mentally, where do you go from here? Because I think that – it obviously was a tough loss. last week. So the bounce back from that, the refocusing from that is my game within the game. Like I expect them to win, but it's not so much of just winning. I'm curious to see how they win this game Saturday. I think they will win, but I'm looking for just those extra pieces, the turnovers, the just the defense, the holes of closing that gap, and just being confident and just going out there and getting things done in a way that's like, okay, we're here, we're back. Let's run the table.
No, I love those points because the Owls could have maybe one of the best story arcs of the ASUN this year. Start at number 6 in the preseason. Within one game, pretty much get knocked almost all the way out. They get knocked out in their bye week, which is, I believe, was week 2 or 3 this year, a very early bye week. You play Cincinnati. This is the toughest conference schedule, the toughest non-conference schedule Kennesaw State has ever faced. But you're still in it.
Yeah, you're still in it.
Everything's gone wrong for you so far this year. I won't say everything. You do have some quality wins against North Alabama. Was probably a play away, maybe a call away from Jack State being a little bit different. Who knows? It didn't work out that way, but who knows how that game could have gone. I mean, there's still some positives to look at for Kennesaw State. Get a win against Tennessee Tech, get a get-right game that secondary buttons things up, and they're able to shut down what we know they're capable of. And then you get back into the rankings, you get back into a winning streak, and if they go off and they rattle off the rest of the schedule, which is possible, like you said, you play 3 non-conference, which is Chuck South, Charleston Southern, a former rival of them from the Big South, Tennessee Tech this week, and in UT Martin, a team that's been ranked as well, and then you have EKU and Austin Peay as well still to face. So, I mean, there's still a lot of potential for Kennesaw State, and I think this is the week that we're going to find out if they're going to able to kind of kickstart that. So I love your game within the game. For mine, I have 2 of them. Going back to our game of the week with EKU and North Alabama, Noah Walters and Parker McKinney. Both of these teams' defensive lines haven't necessarily been their strong suit in terms of pass rush. Both teams ranked nearly about 100 in the nation, 100th in the nation in sacks per game, getting about 1 or even less than 1 per game. Noah Walters, a true freshman quarterback for UNA. He is a stud, a guy that's going to be around for a very long time. Parker McKinney, obviously an experienced guy. 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. A guy who came back to school and a freshman coming in who's going to be able to navigate the pocket, who's going to have more time to throw and find those kind of street ball plays down the field. Kenneth Rue for 50, Dak Allen for 60 right there. I think that's going to be the game within the game. Who has more time to throw, who can navigate, work their way out of the pocket, and turn that into a street ball type of game. And then my other one, we talked about the alliance kind of percentages here. Who's going to be the front runner here in the ASUN? Because there's a clear front runner over there in the WAC. That's Stephen F. Austin, 89% right now. Who's it going to be for the ASUN? Is it going to be Central Arkansas, who had an incredible week last week? Austin Peay leads the way right now with 71%. Or is it EKU? Or does Kennesaw State come off and rattle off 5 or 6 straight games? Who is going to be the front runner in the ASUN? I can't tell you who it is because I don't know.
That's what I was hoping next. I mean, now that you laid it out, now you got to tell us who it is.
I mean, I think we could all name 3 different ones, and I'd be just as convinced. My gut says Central Arkansas. After they played last week, I don't know if there's a team that can match that on both sides of the ball because I was just as impressed with their defense as well as their offense and the amount of weapons they have on offense. But then you had a game like Lindenwood where they dropped the ball a little bit. So I don't know if I can fully trust that. Same with Austin Peay. They lost by a good amount to Central Arkansas. And EKU's been consistent, but they played a tough schedule, especially out of conference this year. My gut says Central Arkansas. That's my gut. But who knows what the percentages work out to? Because they're undefeated, and they're at number 6 right now. So I'm interested to see. But that's my gut. What do you guys? Who do you guys think will be the front runner?
Well, I do wonder if that 3-point loss, 52 points on your own field to Lindenwood, if that kind of refocused them a little bit to try to finish the season.
Yeah.
Because obviously their offense was unstoppable, but I watched that game. They scored 9 straight touchdowns between them or something like that, where neither defense showed up. So I think that helps Coach Brown and his team kind of refocus to kind of say, hey, we can't have a letdown like this if we want to go where we want to go. So I think that's a potential. I like Central Arkansas, but I'm still kind of looking at Austin Peay. I know they haven't been here before in this league. Not many of these teams have because it's the inaugural season. But I want to see it. I want to see if they can handle the spotlight of what they have, because they have a leg up on Eastern Kentucky. They had the bad loss to Central Arkansas when they might have caught them off guard coming off that win. Obviously, Central Arkansas played that game extremely well and then kind of fell off with the Lindenwood loss. So it's anybody's game, but I'm interested in Austin Peay because I think they came out of the gate a little stronger. They've kind of faltered a little, but I think they might end it a little stronger towards the end of the season. And I'm interested to see if Austin Peay is able to keep it together, play good in those tight spots, and bring it home.
Who you got?
I'm bear aware.
Central Arkansas, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm confident. I'm there. I mean, I think that
Better bring your bear spray.
none of that. Oh, I think they've been solid, like you said, just all across their offense, their defense. You outlined their special teams has also been there, and I think looking at it like that, because I think it's Austin Peay to me would be that number 2 team as of now, and Central Arkansas took care of business against Austin Peay. So I mean, I think that win is gonna mean a lot for them coming down here in the stretch. I think that was a huge win when it happened, and I think that might give them an edge when it comes down to the final standings of seeing where teams fall. That win against Austin Peay was impressive.
Now, listen, if EKU comes out and gets a 30-point win against North Alabama, my mind's changed. I mean, truly, though, that's how close all of these teams are, especially the top 3 right now in the ASUN. EKU could be number 1 easily.
Yeah.
It could be Austin Peay, Central Arkansas. I mean, really.
We just laid out that we know North Alabama's a good team. We know that, and we just got through talking about Kennesaw State's not out of it. And
right.
So it's –
That's what's so crazy about the season is it's cliche to say that you have to play week at a time, but it's truly like a new season every single week.
Yes.
Because we could have our minds made up last week, we changed our mind this week, and like you're saying, a 30-point win for EKU, all of a sudden we're reevaluating things again. So it's
what we do know.
Changing every single week.
It hasn't changed, though. What we do know is Jordan has a seat on the bandwagon. He built the UNA bandwagon.
Built the bandwagon.
So we got to keep that in mind. We can't forget that when we're talking about how things change.
All the hoopla.
Yeah, that's a constant. That's a given.
Yes, it's inevitable.
It is.
Yeah. Death, taxes, and me being on the UNA bandwagon. Add it to the list.
Yeah.
All right, our ASUN preview. Enough about football. What's going on around the conference, William?
Obviously, all of our fall sports are going on, but I think right now our focus is championship time. It's at that part of the season for women's soccer. As of recording, we've got 6 of our spots in our ASUN Women's Soccer Championship have been sewn up. We've got 2 spots available that will be to be determined. I guess as of the time that you're hearing this podcast, we may have a regular season champion for women's soccer. We may not. We may be going into an exciting Saturday of shaking out. I mean, the spots are in, but the seating's not. It's still up in the air. So I think we've got an exciting weekend coming up of just finding out where teams are falling, which teams are hosting, and obviously next week going into the Women's Soccer Championship. So and as well getting into the same situation with men's soccer next week of finding out. So it's that time where things are getting really exciting for the soccer world. Ready to hand out some trophies. Cross country championship as well next week. So it's time to get in the championship form, Jordan.
I'm ready. And listen, joining the team here at the ASUN last March, jumping straight into spring championships pretty much, which is very hectic, obviously, a lot of sports going on. There's just a certain vibe to championship season. Yeah. You're on the road, you're roughing it. You know, you're in the hotel feeling like a rock star. You gotta go to work.
We know how you. We know about you. That's a whole other podcast.
You know, we're working night to night. You know, that burn the midnight oil. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Championship season, it's here. I can't wait for it.
Hey, I've worked all night a couple of times, drinking coffee through the moonlight of my hotel, so I know all about.
You just made that sound so. Drinking coffee through the moon.
I mean, you're right. It's coming up. We're gonna be working long hours. It don't matter because we're handing out trophies But I did want to address a rumor that I heard.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
I heard that you were going to be doing play-by-play on the back of a gator while you're in front of the cross-country first-place runner. And I didn't know if that's true, but I just wanted to bring it up here. If you really were interested in doing play-by-play for the ASUN cross-country championship.
I've not heard this rumor. This rumor has not made its way to me. I would love to do so.
Would you?
I think I could really, I think I could really add a lot. You know,
I mean,
picks them up and put them down.
I might be able to swing that for you. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. Cross country.
All right.
Guess we'll have to see.
We'll table that discussion, but I if that's what you want, I can make that dream come true.
Bold prediction.
Bold prediction.
Will you not be on the back of a gator?
We'll have to do a live on the Gator podcast.
I'm out of that one.
Yep. All right, guys. I appreciate the ASUN preview, William. It's time. It's trivia time. Are we ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Mr. Kool-Aid Man. Let's get it started. Our scoreboard, William with 4, Mike with 2, and myself with just 1, and we'll probably stay at 1 for the rest of the time. Well, I think William got the point last week as well. Is that correct? Or last time we did this? I believe that's correct. I mean, 4, the math works out. I believe.
Yeah, I think the question
you got
was
all but 1.
The question was,
I missed the is it
Is
fingernails?
the fish scales?
Oh yeah, the fish scales and
yeah.
the lipstick or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said like construction adhesive.
Yep, that's it. Always got to be reminded. My memory is.
Yeah, me too, because I always change my mind.
You won the potato chips. That's the one.
Yep.
I never go with what I first think, and I've lost the lead because of it, and it's completely my fault. So it's wonderful.
Oh, we'll have to. If William starts to pull away here at the end, we're gonna have to come up with some formation that makes it competitive.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, again, if we start to catch up to William, then it's fair game. That's all it is. We want the audience to be entertained there, William.
We do.
And if that has to sacrifice your title, then so be it.
Oh, no. The rules they just ever evolve.
We'll see. Yeah, we make them up as we go. All right, our trivia question for this week: in 1958, Japan and Indonesia banned the public use of blank for, quote, stimulating passion, unquote. Your 3 answers are A, Battleship board game, B, Mr. Potato Head, or C, hula hoop. Which one did Japan and Indonesia ban because it caused it stimulated passion? You look at me like that.
Yeah.
Any thought?
I got an answer.
Okay. I'm ready for it.
I'm not ready to give it. I mean,
Okay.
Nah. You have an answer? Or you still thinking?
Hey, you got the floor right now. So
stimulating passion.
I feel like I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Is this like a reference to Elvis? Like,
I mean, it's even better.
Because I think
that's better than where I was going.
I think me and you are on the same.
That's actually that's more appropriate for this podcast than what you. Yeah, let's go with the Elvis reference.
So
Go ahead and explain what you guys are talking about. I'm lost, I guess.
Yeah, go with the.
Well, considering you have 1958 and what was allowed back then, I know it's.
I'm pretty stimulated when I have my Mr. Potato Head.
Japan and Indonesia with this question.
Or Battleship.
But, I mean, I just watched the movie about Elvis.
Hit.
And talking about how what he was doing was frowned upon. So, to me, I think the answer would be hula hoop because of what it takes to keep the hula hoop up.
Miss.
And what they're talking about with stimulating passion. I mean, what kind of slippery slope are we going down on this podcast? But I think the answer is C, hula hoop.
Hit.
You suck my carrier.
That did it for me right there.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Mike.
I don't even know where you guys are right now.
We're talking about Battleship.
I understand. I mean, I'm looking at you. You're talking about missiles that are missing and hitting, and I'm not even talking about Battleship.
I suck his carrier.
I just kept going. I just kept answering the question. You guys are playing Battleship without a board game? I'm really confused.
Short answer is C.
Okay.
For whatever he just laid out.
Elvis.
That's good. That's a good explanation there. I mean, you're right. I guess you guys sniffed this one out pretty easily. It is hula hoop. You guys are both correct, so you both will get a point. I mean, I should have come up with something different. Obviously, dancing or.
Yeah, you had to see.
I didn't think of it like that. You guys did, and that's why I just.
Instantly, because
when I thought
it's my old
passion.
age.
The word is stimulating.
That's
the word.
It had nothing to do with the passion. It's to say stimulate. It is
Yeah,
the only,
and
you can. No offense to the battleships stimulated individuals like Jordan.
Because the explanation it gave didn't have anything to do with the explanation you guys gave. It was just a normal. I was like, oh, so like a board game, Mr. Potato.
Honestly,
stupid.
the first thing I thought of was somebody clenching their pearls, and it went right to hula hoop because somebody's watching whatever person do that and going,
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
See,
you are stimulating passion.
Yeah.
You stop that right now.
I should have thought that one through. Yep. But again, from what I looked at, the fact it didn't really give that kind of answer, so I didn't think about that, but I should have.
Miss.
I missed this week.
Real quick, did they have an additional bullet point about this that if you did stimulate passion, that the broadswords came out? How do they do things back then? I don't know.
Ching.
In 1958?
Mike DeVader, hula hoop inspector. Oh, well.
It is mid-afternoon here in
Yes,
Atlanta,
it
and we
is.
have lost our minds.
Absolutely. Well, I took another L this week, but I'm glad you guys both got some points.
I mean, everyone can see these TVs. Even the TVs have signed off because of what we're doing right now. So
we've officially gone off the rails, and I think it's time to retire this episode.
Okay.
Our longest episode so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
We had to do it. We're coming off a bye week. You know, we had to come in and we had to make up for last week's interruption.
Absolutely. All right, guys, make sure you tune in this Saturday. Wow, I messed up. Tune in today. We record on Thursday. Tune in today. More ASUN football action here in the ASUN Football Conference. I'm Jordan Griffitt, joined by William Hall, Mike DeVader. This was the ASUN Game Day Podcast. We'll see you next week.